Don't like taking care of her? Then leave. A parentless woman like you doesn't even has a home to return to.
My husband came home with his mother and said that to me, mockery lacing his words. My mother-in-law had been having trouble with her legs for a while and required care. I had been commuting to her house to take care of her, but her attitude toward me was absolutely terrible. She hurled insults at me and criticized everything I did, no matter how small. Even when I consulted my husband, he always took her side. Still, since I lost my parents at a young age, I wanted to cherish the mother figure I had gained, even if she was my mother-in-law. However, it was my mother-in-law herself who completely trampled on those feelings. Gradually, I started visiting her home less and less. Then one day, my husband brought her to our house and demanded that I either take care of her full-time or leave. My mother-in-law, Mary, emboldened by his words, joined in with a mocking laugh.
That's right. You don't have any parents, so there's nowhere for you to go back to, is there? Guess you'll just have to take good care of me from now on.
At that moment, something inside me snapped completely. The last shred of affection I had left shattered into pieces. I took a deep breath and calmly replied, "All right then, let's get divorced." Both of them looked at me in shock, but I continued, "And I'll be returning to my family home."
What? Your family home?
My husband muttered, dumbfounded, while my Mary sneered and spoke up.
Family home, as if you have one. What are you talking about?
But I calmly retorted, "I do. You just don't know about it. My name is Catherine. I'm 35 years old and work as a corporate employee. When I was a child, I lost my beloved parents in an accident. I was only 5 at the time, so my memories are a little hazy, but I clearly remember the peaceful afternoon sunlight streaming down without any warning of what was to come. That day, for some reason, it was my grandma who came to pick me up from preschool. She took my hand, and I started walking with her. My mom always picked me up from preschool, so even as a child, I found it strange that my grandma had come to get me that day. My grandparents' house wasn't too far from the preschool, but it wasn't especially close either.
Today, Grandma is picking me up.
I don't remember what kind of expression my grandma had when I said that so casually. She took me straight to the hospital, but that day, I wasn't able to see my parents. Because of the severity of the accident, they must have decided it was best not to let a young child like me see them. I had an older brother, Alex, who was 3 years older than me, but he was only 8 at the time. Just like me, he stood outside the hospital room, silently watching as our relatives rushed around in a panic. There were so many adults, yet my mom and dad weren't among them, and that made me feel a little uneasy. I learned later that my dad had taken a day off from work that day. He and my mom had gone out shopping together. On their way, their car was hit by a driver who had fallen asleep at the wheel, and they were rushed to the hospital immediately. Sitting on the hard hospital chair, Alex held my hand tightly. His face was pale, and I could see how hard he was clenching his teeth, trying not to cry. He must have already realized that something terrible had happened to our parents. I didn't know anything at the time, but being suddenly taken to the hospital and seeing my brother and all the adults acting so tense made me more and more anxious, to the point where I felt like crying.
What's going on? Aren't we going home?
I asked over and over, but Alex never answered. The only thing I clearly remember is how his hand, holding mine, was damp with sweat. After that, we were taken to our grandparents' house. It wasn't until a few days after we started living there that we were finally told the truth about our parents' deaths. Our grandpa sat Alex and me down in the old living room, took a deep breath, and spoke.
I have to tell you something painful, but from now on, Grandma and I will always be here for you.
I barely understood anything that followed.
You won't be able to see your mom and dad anymore.
The only words that stuck in my mind were, Alex didn't cry in front of everyone. Every time I looked like I was about to burst into tears, he squeezed my hand and kept repeating the same words.
It's gonna be okay.
But that night, after our grandparents had gone to bed, I heard him crying into his pillow in the bed next to mine, trying to stifle his sobs. My grandparents' house was an old European-style home. The hallway creaked with every step, and the room where my parents' photos were placed always carried the scent of candles. Everything about living there felt new, yet strangely unreal. Every morning, my grandma would brush my hair. She would fix the wrinkles in Alex's school uniform and repeatedly tell him,
I'm going to raise you into a fine man.
but she must have noticed that he was more concerned about me than himself.
You're still a child. You need to worry about yourself first.
She scolded him once. But Alex just shook his head and whispered.
I'm gonna protect Catherine.
From that day on, he wasn't only my brother, but also became my parent. Alex did everything he could to keep me from sinking into grief, just as he had promised. My grandparents were kind to me as well, but no one supported me and looked toward the future for me the way Alex did. Thanks to him and my grandparents, I was able to grow up without straying from the right path. After graduating high school, Alex carved his own path and started his own business. Watching him work hard, I learned the courage to face any hardship head-on, and my respect for him only grew stronger. When I graduated high school, Alex asked if I wanted to work at his company. I didn't hesitate to accept because I wanted to support him however I could. Since then, I've worked hard and have lived a busy yet fulfilling life. I never had much luck with relationships, but when I met Jack through our mutual friend, we hit it off immediately and quickly went from dating to marriage. It has now been 3 years since Jack and I got married, but we don't have children yet, so it's just the two of us living together. My work at Alex's company allows me to work from home without any issues, so I usually spend my days surrounded by my laptop and stacks of documents in my home office. Jack knows that I work from home doing administrative work, but he doesn't know that I work for Alex's company. He's so focused on his own job that he's never really shown much interest in what I do. Still, when we first got married, things were good between us. Back then, Jack wasn't as busy with work as he is now, so we had more time to spend together at home. However, as time went on, his workload increased, and he started leaving early in the morning and coming home late at night. That routine gradually created a quiet distance between us. And around that time, the things Jack started saying began to sting.
Must be nice, huh? Just sitting at home on your computer and still getting paid.
He said that one night as he walked in, completely exhausted. At first, I thought he was joking and laughed it off. But over time, it became a regular thing, and there was an unmistakable tone of disdain in his words.
Man, working from home must be the easiest gig ever. Must be nice getting paid for what's basically playtime.
I took pride in my work. I was involved in important projects and felt confident in the results I was achieving. But little by little, Jack's words started chipping away at that confidence. Don't call it playtime. I'm working hard from home. I couldn't hold back and finally spoke up. Jack scoffed and smirked.
Oh, please. Like you're actually working hard. Bet you're just doing some mindless. Anyone can do a job. Hell, even calling it a job is probably a stretch.
Every time I tried to argue, he would shut me down with an overwhelming barrage of words. Eventually, I just stopped fighting back. But that wasn't the only thing that was bothering me. There was also my mother-in-law, Mary. She lived alone in her house, just a 5-minute walk from ours. My father-in-law had passed away 5 years ago due to an illness. When I married Jack, I was actually excited to have a mother-in-law, even if she wasn't my biological mother. Since I lost my real mom when I was 5, I was genuinely happy to have a new family. But that hope was crushed almost immediately. From the very first time we met, Mary made it clear she despised me for stealing her beloved only son. Every time I saw her, I felt an unbearable heaviness in my heart. Lately, it seems Jack has been venting about me to her often, and whenever she visits, she never misses a chance to throw passive-aggressive jabs at me.
Work from home, such a convenient little phrase, isn't it? It's basically just an extension of being a housewife, isn't it? Jack works so hard out there, and all you do is sit at home and take it easy. And on top of that, no kids. Seriously, what do you even do all day?
Mary was a sharp-tongued woman, and since I never talked back, she took full advantage of it to hurt me with her blunt words. Her gaze always seemed to accuse me of failing my duties as a daughter-in-law and neglecting my role as a woman. She escalated further, starting to show up at our house uninvited when Jack was away for work, criticizing every little thing about how I handled the household chores. Having reached my limit, I finally spoke up. Mary, what you're doing is called harassment. Please stop. Looking back, I could have phrased it better. But at the time, I was under pressure with work deadlines and had little emotional bandwidth to spare. Since I had never talked back before, she looked dumbfounded for a moment, her face frozen in surprise. But she quickly turned red with anger and started yelling.
What kind of attitude is that toward your mother-in-law, you insolent woman?
She shouted, spitting as she spoke. Seeing Mary so agitated that it seemed like steam might come out of her head, I spoke to her. Mary, please calm down.
Ouch!
She suddenly cried out softly and clutched her right foot. What happened? Startled, I rushed over to her. She hadn't bumped her foot on anything and suddenly started complaining of pain. What could have happened?
I'm fine. I tripped at home recently, and sometimes my foot hurts because of it. I'm not feeling well, so I'm leaving for today.
She snapped angrily as she headed toward the door. Are you sure you're okay? Should I call a cab for you? I asked her.
Don't treat me like an old woman. My house is just a short walk from here. I don't need a cab.
She spat out those words and slammed the door shut. It's not about your age. I was just worried because your foot looked painful. I murmured to myself, sighing as I stared at the now empty doorway. At the same time, a bad feeling began to creep over me. And that feeling would soon be proven right.
Mom's going to need care. Her right leg seems to be in bad shape.
Jack said solemnly about a month after she first complained about her foot. I knew it. Somehow, I just had a feeling. According to Jack, her right leg had gradually lost mobility, and now she couldn't get around without crutches. Jack had started looking for a care facility for her, But since he couldn't find one that met her needs, he turned to me for help.
I can't find a facility for her, so I was hoping you could go to my mom's house and take care of her for now. Just until we find a place, okay?
Aren't you going to help care for her?
Well, you know how demanding my job is. I can't really help much with caregiving, so that's why I'm asking you. But I'll help out when I can.
Given how much Mary had harassed me as a daughter-in-law, I had my doubts. But I decided to commit to helping out until they found a facility, visiting her home frequently to care for her. Maybe this would be an opportunity for her to soften her attitude toward me. I had been holding on to a faint hope. But it didn't take long for me to realize just how wrong I was. The moment I stepped into Mary's house, she refused to even look at me and coldly said,
"You're not my family, so don't come here."
Her words left me speechless. She truly despised me. I felt a heaviness settle in my chest. Still, I thought maybe she was just emotionally unstable since she had only recently started needing care. Forcing myself to shake off the unease, I focused on taking care of her and cleaning the house. Surely, over time, she would soften. But instead, her hostility escalated with each passing day.
"Oh, you think I'm helpless and weak, don't you?"
She would yell at me while I cleaned, sometimes even throwing a remote control or a newspaper in my direction. I endured it, hoping things would change, but her attitude remained the same. My stress reached its limit, so I finally decided to talk to Jack about it. But what he said was beyond anything I had expected.
Hey, don't stress mom out more than she already is. If she's acting that way toward you, maybe you're the problem.
His words made my blood boil, and I snapped back. So you're saying this is my fault? I've adjusted my work schedule, made time, and have been taking care of your mother. And this is what I get in return. Jack looked startled for a second, but then he let out a mocking laugh.
Oh, come on. It's not like you actually have to adjust anything. You can make time whenever you want. Stop acting like you're doing something special.
Then, as if that was the end of the conversation, he walked off into his room. Frustrated, I called out to him, facing his closed door. Hey, you said you'd help with her care. You told me I'll do what I can. But you haven't done a damn thing, have you? You've just dumped everything on me. No matter how much I shouted, Jack never responded. I can't do this anymore. I muttered under my breath, knowing he wasn't listening anyway. Between Jack and his mother, I was completely drained. As time went on, I found myself avoiding Mary's house more and more. Every time I went, all I got were complaints and insults. I just couldn't keep doing this. Then, one night, Jack came home late as usual. But something was different. Standing beside him was Mary. She leaned on crutches, with Jack supporting her. Mary? My eyes widened in shock. Jack, clearly annoyed, looked at me and spoke in an irritated tone.
You're just gonna stop taking care of her, huh? You've been neglecting her, haven't you?
I took a deep breath and answered calmly. Neglecting her? She doesn't even want me to take care of her. And I reached my limit. I tried talking to you about it, but you didn't care. Before I could finish, Jack cut me off, raising his voice.
There are no available facilities, so mom's going to live here. If you don't like it, then leave. A parentless woman like you doesn't even has a home to return to.
Mary seized the opportunity and added mockingly.
That's right. Catherine, you don't have parents, so you don't have a home to go back to, do you?
At that moment, something inside me snapped. The last bit of attachment I had left shattered completely. I took a deep breath and then spoke. All right, let's get a divorce. Both of them looked shocked, but I continued. And I'm going back to my family home.
What? Family home?
Jack muttered in disbelief, and Mary let out a scoff.
What are you even talking about? You don't have a family home.
But I calmly responded, I do. My brother has been taking care of it. Jack's expression twisted for a moment, and Mary was at a loss for words.
What do you mean?
Ignoring Jack, I quickly started packing my things. I wanted to get away from them as soon as possible. Once I had everything I needed, I left the house in silence. Jack and his mother were still shouting behind me, but I didn't care anymore. I walked away with a sense of relief. I headed to the house where I was born and lived until I was 5. It was the home my grandparents had protected ever since the day I lost my parents. Now that they had passed, Alex had taken over its management, but since his job required him to live elsewhere, the house was left vacant. Jack and Mary assumed I had nowhere to go, but in reality, I did. As I stepped inside, the familiar scent of wood brought back a flood of childhood memories. The peaceful times I spent with my parents, playing hide and seek with Alex. The house, filled with memories, welcomed me back as if embracing me. After unpacking, I spent several peaceful days there. Then one day, Jack called. I had been ignoring his calls, but he was so persistent that I finally gave in and answered. Hello.
Where the hell are you? Get back here now.
His angry voice pierced through the phone the moment I picked up. Calm down. You don't need to yell. I can hear you just fine.
I asked you where you are. You've been ignoring my calls.
I already told you. I went back to my family home. I replied in an exasperated tone. Jack, now clearly frustrated, raised his voice even more.
You keep saying that, but you don't have a home to go back to. Your parents are dead, and your grandparents passed away a long time ago.
Yes, my parents died when I was little, and my grandma has passed away too. But the house is still here, so I returned to it. That's all there is to it. Jack fell silent for a moment before speaking quietly.
I don't understand any of this. I need to talk to you in person. Tell me where you are.
We can talk over the phone. We're done. There's nothing left to discuss, and I don't see any reason to meet. I said that, but then I realized I still hadn't gotten him to sign the divorce papers. Sure, I could mail them, but it would be much more certain if I had him sign them in front of me and file them myself. As I was thinking about that, Jack suddenly pleaded in a tearful voice.
Please, let's talk one more time.
After hesitating, I finally decided to give him my address. The next day, Jack showed up at my family home, and I was shocked by his appearance. He looked completely exhausted, his face gaunt and his body frail. In just a few days, he had become almost unrecognizable.
You? What are you doing in a place like this? I thought you had no family home. Is this really your house?
Jack peered inside, looking around as if trying to make sense of it. After my grandparents passed, my brother took care of this house. You and Mary assumed I had nowhere to go, but I never once said that. I answered calmly. Jack was at a loss for words for a moment, but then frustration took over his face.
You were hiding this from me all along? I supported you because I thought you had no home, no family to rely on, and you just trampled all over my kindness.
A cold feeling settled deep in my chest. Supported me? I asked quietly, then continued, my voice rising. You never supported me. You looked down on me. You convinced yourself I had no home or family and wanted to keep me beneath you. You mocked my job every chance you got, and now you dare say you were supporting me? Jack stood frozen, his mouth slightly open, unable to respond. Eventually, he let out a deep sigh and softened his tone.
Look, don't get so worked up. Come back, okay? Mom needs care, and I can't handle everything on my own. And housework. I mean, you've always done it, and I can't keep up. I need you, Catherine.
Need me? I couldn't help but laugh. Why should I come back just to take care of your mother and clean up after you? What's in it for me? I want nothing to do with either of you anymore. Then, I pulled out the divorce papers. I've already filled out my part. Please sign here. Jack looked at the document and exploded with rage.
Are you kidding me? I worked hard for you. You left, and now both Mom and I are struggling because of it.
Oh, and when I was living with you, how did you treat me? You belittled me, threw insults my way, and let Mary torment me without lifting a finger to stop her. You never cared. So, what's the point of saying this now? I spoke with finality.
You. Just come back now. I will never agree to a divorce. You have a duty to take care of me and my mom. You should just do as I say.
Jack's face turned bright red as he yelled. Did he really think that raising his voice and trying to intimidate me would make me obey? I let out a sigh and calmly responded, If you keep making a scene, I'll call the police. And if you refuse to sign the divorce papers, I'll have a lawyer handle everything. While I'm at it, maybe I should also have them file a claim for emotional distress, considering all the mistreatment I endured from you and Mary.
There's no need to take things that far. The police? A lawyer? Are you serious?
If you sign the papers right now, I won't ask for compensation. When I said that, Jack clenched his jaw, his face twisting in frustration as he glared at the divorce papers. Then, in a fit of anger, he messily scribbled his signature and shoved the papers at me.
Here. This is what you wanted, right?
Yes, I'll file it soon. I smiled as I said that, and Jack clicked his tongue in frustration before storming out, stomping noisily as he went. After watching him leave, I wasted no time heading to submit the divorce papers. Once they were officially accepted, I let out a deep sigh of relief. And just like that, Jack and I were no longer husband and wife. We were strangers again. That evening, Alex came by to check on me. I had explained the situation to him via email beforehand, but when I gave him the full story, he laughed and patted me on the shoulder.
Good for you. You finally stood up for yourself. You're free now. Take this house and start living your life again.
I nodded firmly at his words. From this point on, I would move forward, no longer bound by my past. It was a moment of absolute certainty. Life at my family home turned out to be far more peaceful and comfortable than I had imagined. When I lived with Jack, I did housework out of obligation to meet his and his mother's unreasonable demands. But now, I could do it freely without anyone watching or criticizing me. Standing in the kitchen with my favorite music playing, I felt as if I were in a different world. The fridge was packed with fresh vegetables and fruit Alex had sent, and cooking with them was a joy like no other. At night, I developed a habit of reading by the moonlight streaming through the large living room windows. In the stillness, the only sound was the soft rustle of pages. I couldn't even remember the last time I had experienced such tranquil nights. As I embraced this life, the pain of my past began to feel like a distant memory. But that peace didn't last long. One day, Jack showed up at my family home again. My doorbell rang, and thinking it was a delivery, I opened the door only to find him standing there, looking even more haggard than before. His face was a mix of desperation and irritation. "What do you want? I told you not to show up unannounced. What's this about?" I asked Jack coldly, and he spat out his words.
It's the facility. Mom's care facility. I finally found a place that met all the requirements, but it turns out the owner is your brother.
"What?"
Because of him, we were rejected. I also found out you work for his company. You never told me that.
I was momentarily surprised, but quickly understood. Alex had started a caregiving business, and I worked there as an administrative staff member. Jack had never known, but now everything clicked. I hadn't yet heard about this incident from Alex, but knowing him, I could easily imagine him rejecting someone who had wronged his family. Alex knows everything I've told him about how you and Mary treated me. That's why he denied your application. He's always said he can't trust people who don't value their own family. Do you have a problem with that?
Of course I have a problem. If Alex hadn't meddled, Mom could have been admitted. And then, because I was upset, I got a little physical with one of the staff, and they overreacted, restrained me, and humiliated me. And now they're even demanding a settlement payment.
As Jack ranted in anger, I listened in disbelief. So, you resorted to violence against the facility staff? That's just disgusting. I can't believe you'd stoop that low.
It wasn't violence. I just grabbed their arm. They blew it way out of proportion.
Grabbing someone's arm is violence. If the staff are connected to Alex, you should consider yourself lucky to only be dealing with a settlement. In most cases, this would involve the police. Do you even understand that? Jack turned red, unable to say anything in return. What are you here for?
Let me talk to Alex. If I can't get Mom into a facility, I'm done for.
I stared at Jack for a moment before responding coldly. That's not happening. Alex has no intention of talking to you, and he won't approve her admission. Besides, I have no reason to help you either. Jack slumped at the front door, looking up at me with tear-filled eyes.
Please. I'm so exhausted. Do something. I can't take this anymore. It's too much for me.
For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of pity for him, but my resolve didn't waver. I have no reason to do anything for you. Now, can you leave? If you keep this up, I'll call the police for real this time. Jack looked at me with a pale face, but realizing I wouldn't back down, he silently stood up and shuffled away, dragging his feet. As I watched him walk off, I let out a deep sigh. This was the true end. All that was left was to move forward into a new future. I went back inside and opened the living room window. A clear breeze flowed into the room, and I felt like the weight that had been pressing on my heart had disappeared all at once. A few weeks later, I got a call from Alex.
Apparently, Jack has racked up a lot of debt.
It seemed he had been forced to come up with a large amount of money to get his mother admitted to another facility. Before the new facility was finalized, Mary had called Alex's facility herself, begging for reconsideration. However, she was told, "We do not accommodate requests from people who lack sincerity toward their family." This infuriated Mary, and her anger ended up being directed at Jack as well. Even after moving into the new facility, she spent her time complaining about everything. As for Jack, he had to sell their house to cover the debts and move into an old, low-rent apartment. With monthly repayments piling up and a low-paying job, his financial and emotional state had become dire. Gone were his arrogance and pride from before. Jack still calls me occasionally, though I never answer. So every time, a message is left on my voicemail. Most of them are just complaints like, "Life is so hard. Mom does nothing but nag when I visit her, and I feel miserable at work." But all of that is his own doing. Feeling satisfied knowing the outcome of his choices, I decided to block his number. Of course, I also blocked Mary's number. Meanwhile, I've truly reclaimed my peace. With no more harassment from Jack or Mary, I've been able to spend time focusing on myself. While working, I've started slowly pursuing things I've always wanted to do. I've joined a cooking class and begun seriously learning sewing, a hobby I've always enjoyed. I'm even considering showcasing my handmade items at a local market. The joy of using my time for myself, after living a life dictated by others, is incomparable. One day, Alex came to visit me at the family home. We sat in the yard, sipping coffee and chatting.
I'm so glad you freed yourself from your husband and his mother. You're finally living your life,
Alex said with a laugh. His words warmed my heart, and I almost teared up, but instead, I smiled and nodded. Now, I can truly believe it. It's because of those difficult days that I can live this fulfilling, free life today. It's never too late to take back your life. I was finally moving forward toward my future.